Another big issue this week, the tariffs that shook the stock market. Here to talk about that and so many more headlines. WGN political analyst Paul Lisnek, thank you so much for coming in.
Sure.
Always something. If you blink, it's going to be something different every day. Let's talk about the stock markets. Up one day, down the other day. And then Donald Trump, some saying maybe doing some stock trade, insider trading, or?
Well, listen, he played it all beautifully, certainly for his supporters, because after we go through the chaos of it and he removes it, the stock market jumps up a couple thousand points on that third day, and then he takes credit for the stock market gain, and a lot of his people that surround him say this was all the plan, it was all the master plan.
His strategy, that was his strategy.
That was the strategy. However, what is more likely that impacted him was the decrease in the bond markets, was the huge sell-off that was going on. And while his people like Bassett, the Secretary of Treasury, were at, no, it was all the plan. But Trump himself said it was the bond market that people were getting yippee, I think was his word, about all this kind of thing. So the bottom line was he saw some factors that I even think he realized could really tank the market big time and overall. Yeah. And we're still down trillions of dollars. It's not as though everything came back. I mean, again, look at your 401ks. Lost a lot. It came back some, but not the full.
Can Congress intercede? I know they're on a 2-week break, Easter break now, but can Congress intercede in something like this?
Well, Micah, Congress could have been interceding in every step along the way. When it comes, they're trying to deal with a bill now about stepping into the tariff world. The bottom line is that Congress has pretty much ceded their power to the executive branch on this. So can they? Could they? Could. Will they? I would say no, they won't.
But if it was market manipulation, I mean, who in the Justice Department would be able to even begin to look at that?
So when you say market manipulation, it's important, I think, we specify what is it we're referring to. And what we're referring to is that when things were down, President Trump issued one of his Truth Social comments where he said, it's a great day to buy, ! DJT. Right. Now, again, well done, because did DJT mean Donald J. Trump? He was just signing off on his Truth Social thing? He sometimes does that, but he doesn't do it very often. Or was he basically saying a great day to buy DJT, which is the ticker on his stock, which went up tremendously afterwards. We also have a video that somebody took inside the Oval Office where he looked at various rich people who were in there with him, one of whom was Charles Schwab. And he said, look, he's not just a company, he's an actual guy. And I just made you a couple $2 billion today. That's where the talk is coming from. Did that tweet make the market move, get people to, and here's the bottom line, which is, well, it's hard to call it insider trading in that he put it out there publicly. So anybody could have acted on it, but the bottom line is it turns out the only people that really did act on it were the people sort of in his circle and around him who may have understood. But your question was, could they do anything about it? Right. Absolutely. Senator Adam Schiff has called for an investigation. He says he's going to investigate. Answer, nothing's going to happen.
Let's talk about the deportations. They're two of them in the news, especially with the man from Maryland who's in El Salvador. And also we're talking about the other gentleman who
Columbia student.
Mahmoud Khalil, who is an American. And they said that he can be deported. They can go ahead with his deportation. But as far as the man from Maryland, the court order is for him to bring him back, but they don't know where he is.
Right. Well, he's got a certain level of status here. He's married to an American, and she's pregnant.
Right.
But here's the bottom line. I mean, again, I try and take a step back from all these, because I'm sure people who watch this, certainly people who support the president, would end up saying, good, I don't like those people. They shouldn't be here. We have to be able to get rid of them. That's really just not the question that should be being addressed when people are concerned about it. When somebody is sent off to El Salvador, and the administration says, oops, we made a mistake, we admit it, shouldn't have done it. And then we're having a Supreme Court order that said, and it was said in the piece, that the administration needs to facilitate getting him back, which essentially means make it easier, work with El Salvador, but it doesn't need to, it actually didn't say this, it didn't use the word effectuate, which means you got to make it happen. That was the Supreme Court treading carefully, basically saying, okay, I don't know what power the administration has to deal with El Salvador, but now take a step back. We're paying $6 million to El Salvador to house these prisoners. It's hard to, and the president of El Salvador is coming here Monday. So I'm not saying he could put our prisoner in the back of the plane and bring him over, but he could. Yeah. So the bottom line is that you have the administration essentially defying an order of the Supreme Court. I've said on our show before, when that kind of thing happens, this is when democracy begins to face its greatest challenges. And here's the other thing with regard to the student who's now the court has said they can deport him. Basically, he's still not charged with anything. And the reason the court said they could deport him was because Marco Rubio issued a 2-sentence statement which essentially essentially said something along the lines of
Like a two-page statement. I
two-page
think it
statement
was,
is what I meant to say. I'm sorry. Basically saying if we even suspect that you have or will have beliefs that are problematic, we can deport you. With the court saying yes.
And
So,
he has that authority, though, doesn't he?
well, yes. But you have to take a step back. Again, for people who look at all this and just go, well, these are bad guys, they need to go. The point is, it starts there. What is it that then stops the government from stepping in and taking your neighbor, an American citizen, anybody, making the same allegation?
Well, he says he wants to deport criminals who are here in America,
Yes.
send them to El Salvador. He's also pulling back, rescinding visas of international students.
Yeah, students at U of C and other are getting emails that go up, your visa is rescinded. So again, there are people who want the executive to have great power. I'm simply raising the question, if it can happen at a certain level. It was like cutting off funding to foreign aid. A lot of people here went, yeah, we need to take care of ourselves. Let's not worry about foreign aid. And now, as it comes out tonight, funding being cut to all libraries and all. So where does it stop? And once it starts, there may not be an end, and now it's affecting Americans and American cities.
Let's talk about another topic here. Pretty narrow win for Republicans with the big bill. It passes the House. Lots of cuts as expected, but not to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. But comments from Vice President Vance have you kind of on alert here?
Yeah, a couple things there. First of all, what they passed was a framework for the bill, so it's not the bill.
Right.
That's why some Republicans who ultimately say, I'll be a no vote, but they voted yes because it is a framework. But within this framework, so we don't see cuts to Medicaid, but they still have the cuts that have to be made. So that's what happens now. That's where all the committees that get on board. And I talked to Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy yesterday and basically said to him, look, Republicans are saying, Democrats, you're lying. We're not cutting Medicaid. Democrats are saying you're cutting Medicaid. I said, Congressman, who's telling the truth? And I think we may have used part of his answer on our newscast, but essentially he said, look, they have to cut Medicaid. There is nowhere else in the budget that has that kind of money, $880 billion, that needs to be cut. There is nowhere else to go. So that's why clearly they're going to go there. They haven't had to say it yet. However, what's also in that framework, Ray, is the notion of the debt ceiling. They've also put in that we will raise the debt ceiling. Didn't say by how much, but we're going to raise the debt ceiling. Democrats, if they want to do anything, have two more options until 2026 elections: raising the debt ceiling or stopping the raise, and number two, this budget. If essentially the Republicans can pass all this without Democrats and get everybody on board, the Democrats at that point stay home until November of 2026. This is the last couple of things they have to even speak up to and try and do something about.
More law firms are making deals with the president. We've been talking about this for a while. Jenner and Block went to court for this,
Right.
but other law firms are still making deals with him.
More law firms, and we're seeing numbers of like $600 million that the law firms supposedly are going to do. And here's the thing. He talked about pro bono efforts, and so the law firms have sort of hinted, well, you know, there's some good things out there we could be working on, and now apparently he wants them working on tariff agreements and whatever. Looks like he's putting these firms to work for the government. Look, as you know, I'm a lawyer, and so I speak as a lawyer more so than a political person for this particular topic, which is what law firms are doing, in my view, is horrible. Once you start giving in, you know, they just went, as you know, he issued executive orders to go after Miles Taylor, right, and others. So he's now looking at political enemies. Who's going to hire? Who are they supposed to hire? When law firms now know, wait a minute, if we represent you, Miles, the government's going to cut us off from all access. So essentially, this is a larger strategy. Once again, you may not like Miles Taylor. You might not even know who he is. He's been on my show. But essentially, these are people who say, I've got a right to have representation. And it's shocking a lot of big-time lawyers that law firms, major law firms, are taking this. Now, I talked to a representative off the record of a major law firm who said, look, here's the differentiating factor. When a law firm does a lot of litigation, those are the ones who are going to fight, Jenner and Block. When a law firm does corporate government kind of work, they're afraid to take on the government, and they don't think they'll lose clients because they've got to do that work for their clients. I think it's a bad state. You know, Shakespeare once said, you want to take down the government, first thing you got to do is kill all the lawyers. It's exactly what the administration is doing. They are, you know, theoretically killing all the lawyers, and that doesn't spell well for all sorts of issues to come up. No one will take the cases.
Do you think Chicago and the state of Illinois are going to win this sanctuary city fight with President Trump?
They should, because the laws, you know, we can follow laws of the state. But on the other hand here, does President Trump have the power to cut off the federal funding? Well, if Congress stepped up, the answer would be no. They control the purse strings, but they're doing nothing about it. So the answer is he might cut off the funding, but nevertheless, he won't be able to close down, if you will, a sanctuary state or a sanctuary city. We know J.B. Pritzker goes there on the 15th of May, and he's strong. He'll do well in front of the committee. He's a lawyer, and he knows how to present himself
We know the
well.
mayor went back in March.
Yeah, and he did all right, but I think Pritzker will have a stronger better presence,
What's
perhaps,
going-
than the mayor did.
What's on your show?
So this weekend we're going to deal with some of this stuff obviously coming out. I've got Sean Morrison. He's the Cook County GOP chair. He's been on election night with us. He is stepping down. We're going to talk about why he decided to do that after the November elections. And then Mark Densler, who's the chair of the Illinois Manufacturing Association, basically talking about the impact of tariffs here in Illinois. And also at the end of the interview, I want to ask him, what do we manufacture in Illinois? All these questions, what do we make here? He'll let us know.
Find out
Not
Sunday.
coffee beans. We
Tune
know
in
that.
Sunday morning,
Yeah.
9 o'clock.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.